Hello. Alrighty, hi everybody. Today we'll be doing an introduction to literary devices. Now, literary devices are used by authors when they're writing stories, whether it's a movie script, screenplay, poem, or novel, literature, any type of story really, to drive home meanings, to make the story more appealing, to engage the senses, and to get their ideas out more clearly. Basically, literary devices enhance the storytelling ability. And more importantly, it engages the reader and makes the story more of interest to the reader. Now, of course, we know the general types of literary devices. We know the metaphor, the simile, personification when an object that's not human has human like qualities, like the three little pigs being able to talk and discuss and play and have fun. I mean, pigs, I guess, play, but humans also play and have fun after building houses and hard work. So those are the kinds of things that maybe like the Lion King. The Lion King, they're always talking. Everyone's talking, experiencing different kinds of emotions, fear, betrayal, survival. Those are all themes that have to do with literary devices as well. And those are personified as lions in the Lion King, for example. Now, like I said, themes is a literary device. And themes to me kind of feel separate from all different kinds of literary devices, just like the tone, the mood of the story. What's really going on in the story? What's the mood? Is it a sinister, mysterious mood, or is it a fun and easygoing story where we're following a character in the day of the life? To get started on literary devices, I know I just threw a whole lot at you. Let's analyze this poem. It's called Ozymandias or Ozymandias or Ozymandias Ozymandias or I heard it pronounced Ozymandias. Ozymandias. What is it? How'd she say it? How'd she pronounce it again? How'd she say it? Or I heard it said before, Ozymandias, which I would just say Ozymandias, by Percy Bysshe Shelley. By Percy Bysshe Shelley. By Percy Bysshe Shelley. Now, this has a lot of things going on in it, and it makes it a very interesting and celebrated and quite popular. Now, this poem has a lot going on in it. It makes it quite celebrated and popular throughout the years for this reason. Let me start off by reading it, and then we'll get a chance to get deeper into the literary devices used here. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, let me make myself smaller. Let me make myself just a tiny little teeny weeny smaller so you can see the poem itself. And I'll put myself here. Just made myself a little bit smaller so you can see the poem. I'm still here though. Look at me. Okay. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half-sunken, shattered visage or visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of the colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Now, of course, here we see some, assimilation with lone and level, sands stretch, boundless and bare. Now you would know an assimilation is when there's similar sounding, it's when a bunch of words together have the same letter in the beginning, such as please poop appropriately. Okay, that's inappropriate to even say, but you get what I mean. Or Sally sells seashells by the seashore, something like that. And of course we can see he's doing a little bit of that here in this sonnet. Let's go over some of the words that might not be familiar to everybody. Antique has to do with what? Something that holds a type of history. It has the quality of being very old and has a history attached to it, making it perhaps valuable and precious. Antiquity has to do with from a long time ago, from an ancient time. So whenever you think of antique, you could think of antiquity. Or you could think of an antique shop where there's a lot of those and people are selling really old, interesting artifacts from the past that have existed for a very, very long time. So I met a traveler from an antique land who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Now, what does vast mean? Vast is another word for huge or immense, but we can't use vast in the same way we would use huge. We can't say that ship is vast. We can say that actually. What was it that he said? He said, so we can't really use vast to replace the word huge. We can't say the vast TV because vast has to do with having an immense amount of something and it just keeps increasing. So we could say a vast amount of space, a vast continent, the vast ship, but we can't say a vast television. You see, that doesn't really make sense. And so here they're saying two vast and trunkless legs of stone. Now, trunkless, of course, we know that the bottom part of a tree, as I drew over here, is a trunk, right? But to not have a trunk, to be trunkless means to be missing something quite important. And basically, it is not whole if it's missing that thing. And so, as we can see here in the picture, this picture doesn't really go with the poem. This picture originally didn't go with the poem, but this is a pretty good picture that shows what's going on in the poem and what they're talking about. So, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, half sunken, a shattered visage lies. Visage comes from the French word visage, which we still use in French, meaning face. But in English, we pronounce it visage, which is quite weird to me. I would still say visage because it's from the root word, which is French. But the visage has to do with the face. Think about visual, or if we're talking about visual, or if we're talking about vision, if we're talking about a visual to see, or we're talking about vision, it has to do with the face. Or if we're talking about visual, to see something, to be able to see, we're talking about the face. Visage. Visage, root word. If we're talking about vision or virtual, to see something, if we're talking about visual or vision, to see something, it has to do with appearance, how something looks. And so that's where we get the word visage from. Basically, actually originated from the Latin, but adopted by the French to mean face. And we still have a lot of words with that in it. So the shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. Now a sneer is a smile, but it's a strange smile. It's not a typical smile. It's quite a weird smile, and it's kind of like someone's up to something, or there's a mystery behind it. It's not completely pure. And here it describes what kind of sneer it is, of cold command. And again, we see a little bit of the assimilation. Tell that its sculptor well those passions read. And basically here is where the theme starts to develop even more. And we're talking about the sculptor, the person who created this, had a great amount of mastery to sculpt these immense and vast sculptures. Tell that a sculptor whose those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty and despair. Now what is the irony here? There's a little bit of irony, which is another literary device. The irony is that they didn't last. They're still here, but they're broken, they're decaying. So this is where the theme starts coming into play. What is the theme? One of the themes, and of course popular themes in literature, now, these aren't all the themes, but these are some of the more popular themes in literature. We have love, war, coming of age, if somebody's a teenager becoming an adult, redemption, being saved, the quality of being redeemed, survival, to survive. We have a little bit of that going on in our poem, Ozymandias. His things that the sculptor created, they still survived, kinda, actually. But they are lifeless to this day, and everything around it seems to have decayed. So did it survive really, or did it not? There's no wrong answer as long as you maybe could explain your reasoning. There's no wrong answer. You could see this poem as something that has existed for a long time because the person was a master at his craft, and you can explain why you think that is through the poem. Or you can talk about how it didn't survive and how everything is impermanent and everything will decay and go back to dust. So there's two ways to look at this poem. Now, the more common and popular version is to say that nothing lasts. Even somebody who's so confident and has great mastery in the skill of sculpting, their work still eventually collapses and decays. And of course, here we have more themes: betrayal, friendship, justice, courage, power. And of course, we have some of this going on too in our poem, power. Maybe the sculptor, the one who created all these works, is frightened to lose their power. And so they're talking about, look at what I have done. They're so powerful, they're vast, they're immense. look at them and despair because you'll never do anything better than what I have done, right? That's kind of the message he's getting through. And of course, revenge. There's some revenge going on. I like the story of many Shakespeare stories. Good versus evil, family, fate versus free will. This one's a very interesting one. This has to do with maybe society and somebody who doesn't follow what society does and goes into the wild, for example. That's a very common theme in that movie and book, or the theme of death. And so if we go back to our poem, let's keep reading and let's see what else we can find here. And on the pedestal, these words appear. The pedestal, of course, is, when you get on stage, there's a tiny little elevated piece of the ground to stand on so you can speak. The pedestal, these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of the colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. And so bare has to do with being empty. If we say bare feet, or if we're talking about being barefoot, it means there's nothing on your feet, completely without shoes or socks. So completely empty, boundless and bare, empty. The lone and level sands stretch far away. So it's like the sands of what? Perhaps it's time. So this poem is wrestling with a lot of different themes. Time could be one of them too. Maybe fate could be one of them, as we just saw in that theme, where maybe the fate of things is that the sands of time, they level everything out and everything goes back to zero eventually. So as you can see, there's a lot of things here. Maybe even courage could be a theme. As you can see, there's a lot of themes here. Maybe courage could also be a theme, because the sculpture might require a great amount of courage to create something so powerful and immense with such a strong, to create such an immense sculpture with such a powerful message, right? And of course, with a message comes another literary device, which is symbolism. So in symbolism, it's not so much a theme. The themes symbolize general directions and themes that the theme symbolizes general ideas and things that this poem is struggling or trying to tell us or wrestle with. Themes convey what the poem or story is wrestling with. They're big ideas, big topics that we deal with in everyday life. But the symbolism is very specific. So if we look at the sculptor, well those passions red, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. So the rock maybe is what's symbolized as being lifeless. The rock itself didn't have a face on it, or these huge, gigantic rocks weren't shaped as feet. And so the sculptor was able to create from something he had in his mind into the physical. The symbolism there could be to create what you have in your mind and go forth in that courage and bravery to do what you know you would love to do and want to do. Or we can talk about the shattered visage, which lies, half sunk. Now, what is the symbolism there? Of course, that goes back to the theme of survival, that this immense object was not able to survive, and eventually it collapsed, and now the face is half sunken into the sand. So a lot of symbolism here as well. And of course, the symbolism of what is on the pedestal. the words written on the pedestal. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty in despair. And of course, this kind of has a strange turn to it because it's so confident what he's saying on the pedestal, but now, after all these years, the work itself is not so mighty because it has collapsed and it's not what it used to be. And so the symbolism there could be, you tell me. So, out of everything I just said and all the rambling I just did, I want you to look over this poem and find your own literary devices. It could be things I have mentioned already, but I want you to explain it in your own words, not like I explained it or said it. And I deliberately tried to make it a little unclear, and I just said a lot of things at once so you don't copy me. So now I want you to find your own literary devices. It could be some of the things I said, but I want you to write it in your own words. And this is why I didn't clearly lay out all the literary devices in an organized way. I just kind of spilled it out all on you, so you're not able to follow everything per se. So you're not able to. I just spilled it all out on you. I just generally talked at you, but now it's your time to write in your own words and explain your reasoning for choosing a specific literary device and choosing your literary device. And also, I want you to talk more about the themes that you see here in this poem. I will leave some of the literary devices commonly used in literature and some of the themes commonly used in literature out on the screen for you. And I will leave some of the literary devices out on the screen for you. Pick one and explain how it's shown in this poem, and as well as some of the themes. You can find this poem by simply clicking. You can find this poem once again by going back and forth in this video. You can find this poem by going back in the video to it, or you can simply just search it up on Google, Ozymandias. All right, take your time with this. There's no time limit. Try to learn as many literary devices and find as many as you can here in this poem, as well as the themes, and explain how each theme is being used. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Take care.